everyone. Welcome to the first official episode of the Game Off podcast. I'm Andrew Paulo.
And I'm Brent Langevin.
And today we're going to be matching up Apex Legends and Anthem in our first matching up of two games. First, we're going to go over some news, but before that, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit here. I'm Andrew. I've been gaming for a great portion of my life. The majority of games I play are good ones. Games like solitaire games, puzzle RPGs, typing for first-person shooters.
Games for the masses.
Games for the masses. Picross games on mobile, anything with the word tycoon in it, and then a lot of FPSs and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'm Brent Langevin, as I told you before. I'm sort of a good juxtaposition to Andrew, whereas I play a good chunk of multiplayer games, a lot of shooters, RPGs, a lot of AAA games, and whereas I'm more of a console player, whereas I own every major platform, Andrew plays primarily on PC, so we'll get some complementing opinions on things, or conflicting. Dun dun dun.
I own a Switch now though, so I've got that. I've got some options there.
That's true.
Nope, that's it. I don't have any others.
We just jump into some news.
So my interesting story of the week was THQ's very intriguing decision to do an informal AMA on 8chan. The 8chan, for those unaware, is kind of like a distilled version of 4chan if you took all the worst things of 4chan and got them onto one site. It's an image site. I believe, like 4chan, it's completely anonymous who's going on there, and it's so frequently associated with racism, militant far-right ideology in postings, and child pornography that's just been completely delisted from Google.
Least of all. Yeah.
Yeah, and least of all, child pornography.
Yeah.
It's been delisted from Google for having such associations with child abuse and child pornography.
Right. Which is incredible, that the lack of preparation that they put into setting this whole thing up. Now, for a little bit of background, THQ Nordic is sort of a not necessarily a recovering brand, because I think Nordic ended up buying all of the THQ licenses, and recently they've published games like Darksiders 3. What else have they done lately? Can you remember any? Did
they do that remaster of Titan Quest?
Maybe?
Because I think that was a THQ property.
Well, whatever the case, I think Darksiders 3 was like sort of their lightning rod game lately, and from what I've heard, that's been very successful. And the company as a whole has been on the up and up lately, and not necessarily can do no wrong, but they've curated a great image in the industry.
And to just go from that to, whoops, we accidentally hosted an open AMA on a site known for its child pornography and racism. It's a bit of an about-face.
Oh yeah, for sure. So to cite Polygon, because you probably did a bit more research than me, but I read the Polygon article where they cited the PR guy who set this whole thing up as in communication with 8chan, and they said that they were going to repress all of the nasty stuff. So they were aware that something wasn't great.
That's the thing that's been ticking me off the most of this story, is the best possible reading I think you can give is that THQ, or at least that guy, was trying to be edgy. Because anything beyond that is either THQ's PR people are completely incompetent, or they were fully aware of what they were doing and thought this was a good idea.
Right. And it seems like they're trying to play the incompetence method of recovery, because they seem to have just thrown this guy completely under the bus.
Which I just can't imagine that for a company the size of THQ Nordic, that this is the only guy that had any piece in this decision. At no, because it's not like it's not like something like Reddit where you can do a lot of reading about Reddit and not realize that it's got a lot of horrible things on it. Like,
Yeah.
it's very difficult to read anything about 8chan without coming across racism and child abuse
Yeah,
as its main focus.
yeah, I'm sure if he even Googled for 1 second, like, what is 8chan, the Wikipedia would not be, uh, you know,
It's not
very.
kind.
It's not gonna instill any sort of confidence.
So I don't know. I think it's very. I think they're asking us to be very charitable in just saying, "Oh, it was this one guy, and we shouldn't have listened to him. He should have done more research." Like, either he did no research at all, which speaks something to their PR team and him,
Hmm.
or they ran this and said, look, yeah, this is a website that's kind of full of racism and child porn, but we're going to get our bit in the news cycle and it'll get us part of the discussion and part of the discourse. And so we'll be out there and our name will be out there.
Sure did.
Which, one of the things I found interesting, and this kind of even harkens back to about 5 minutes ago, at no point during any of the things I saw people talking about this were people talking about THQ Nordic's games.
No, I don't. I don't think I noticed that. Which, I mean, I guess is a good thing for them because they probably want to distance themselves from it.
Right, but for as a PR move, this has entirely just been about THQ Nordic.
I think they're fortunate for that because it's all so negative right now. Like, would you want them bringing like? Would you want people talking about Darksiders while talking about child pornography in the same breath? Like, I think they've lucked out.
Oh yeah, they absolutely have. And I know that even in the brief things I was reading about what actual questions went on in the AMA, it was a lot of questions of like, are you going to let social justice warriors censor your games? It's too on the nose for me. It almost seems like the kind of thing that if you were writing a parody about a publisher's AMA on 4chan, it would read like.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's idiotic, and I don't think we'll ever really know how this all played out internally at THQ, because there's a cynical part of me that believes that they're just letting this one guy take the blame, but that it wasn't just one guy making this call.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be curious to see because this is still unfolding. Like there's no way THQ Nordic's gonna completely distance themselves from this. Like people still very much expect an apology from the company itself because like they literally just posted the apology from the PR guy
Yep.
and they expected this to go away, but none of the headlines have been uh fucking Brock did it again. Like every single one's been THQ Nordic shit the bed.
Yeah, this has not been their finest hour, which, as you kind of framed there, is a shame because they've been doing all right for a while. They've been making a lot of good moves and seemed like they were one of the better publishers out there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Well, they showed
resurrecting
us.
Darksiders alone. Yeah, no shit. They've also been buying up a lot of like just dormant IPs from companies that may or may not have closed down, or they buying them up off of the auction block and stuff like that. So like, I'm still excited to see what they output in the future, but they need to. They're clearly still a growing company with massive growing pains if they don't have very firm PR processes.
Yeah, it's just, it kind of falls into that whole problem that a lot of the larger video game companies and publishers are working into right now, which is trying to be fun on Twitter.
Yeah, who isn't doing that now?
Ubisoft sent out that email about come check out the Division 2 beta to see a real government shutdown.
Oh,
Just
okay.
weird tonal issues.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Somebody needs to read these things before they go out. Just like somebody needs to be like, 8chan, maybe this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Maybe you should Google something.
I see. Yeah, I think that's all I got for that one.
Yeah. So the other news bit I want to talk about this week was the official cancellation of Overkill's The Walking Dead game. And this is a cancellation of the console ports. The PC version technically did release, but they have since canceled all or ended all support on the game, so there's not going to be any more updates. I don't even know if you can buy it anymore, because they basically said if you have any problems with this, you can go straight to hell. So this, I love how much of like a nightmare weave this is, and I think my main interest in this is just breaking down how just how stupid this whole thing's been, because it became news this week after it was sort of not announced by the company, but actually announced by Sony that the game's PS4 port was canceled and that they were going to start refunding people. So Sony sort of makes the first move here, and they're not involved in the publishing or development of this game whatsoever. The game is licensed by Skybound, which is actually owned by Skybound's actually a development and publishing firm for games, and it's owned by Robert Kirkman, and who is the creator of Walking Dead. So he actually licenses this game out to Overkill. Overkill is a developer who has made Payday.
Yep, Payday 2, and whatever the hell the name of that World War II game they came out with last year.
Yeah. And so they developed what is, I think, universally considered a train wreck of a game, which is the Walking Dead game. So this is published on PC by Starbreeze. Starbreeze is not shy about telling people that it has been a colossal failure. There's numerous reports that internally at Overkill and at Starbreeze, like, nobody ever thought this was going to be a good game. So cut to Sony's email to all PS4 users who had pre-ordered the game, telling them that it was canceled. 505 Games, who's the publisher for the console versions, steps in and says, whoa, we didn't cancel this. It's still coming out. So Sony has to then resend that email. And obviously every PS4 user is probably confused. PS4 users that have pre-ordered the game, probably confused as hell. So this is where it gets really interesting, because Skybound is the license owner, has cause to terminate the contract finally after this whole thing is said and done. They step in and they're like, no, we're not happy with any of this. The contract's terminated. You can no longer publish this game. And everyone else is just sitting around with their dicks in their hands. I cannot get over just how stupid and how many companies were involved in just this colossal shitstorm of a story.
Overkill and Starbreeze have a storied history with putting out bad console ports. The Payday 2 console port, for the Xbox One, had bugs for the longest time that were like bugs on release or with day one patch, caused by the day one patch, that I think may still exist, that just never got fixed.
As far as I know, they do, and they also released a statement saying that they weren't going to fix them.
Yep.
Which is just the cojones that takes. Just, hey guys, we're not working on this. Don't even hold your breath. What is that going to do for sales? Like, just log it internally and be like, we'll get to it if we can. Like, why would you just shut the door on that entirely and alienate an entire council of people?
I get the feeling that Starbreeze may not be the best publisher.
What tipped you off, Andrew?
Well, I remember back because I played a lot of Payday 2 when that was a game people still played. And there was a period of time where before release, the lead developer, whose name I can't remember right now, made a very, a non-negotiable statement on how there would be no microtransactions in the game. Period. And there would be no microtransactions, and if you think that we would put them in there, you're crazy, or something along those lines. And then cut to 2 years later, when they make a big announcement about how they're adding microtransactions and loot boxes.
Didn't they also roll that back too?
They did. I think eventually Overkill took it away from Starbreeze and self-published the last 5 or 6 DLC packs.
What the fuck? So
once
they had already had a rocky.
Yeah, I think they had a 2-year publishing agreement, and once that was up, they pulled it back.
So
it looked really bad.
Yeah, so clearly there's some discourse between this developer and the publisher already. And, flash forward to 2019, which is 4 or 5 years after that whole thing. there's like they're still not making them money. Clearly, Starbreeze is like not. I don't think they've publicly said anything, but I read a couple of articles that like they've acknowledged that the game is a failure.
It doesn't look like it's on sale on Steam anymore.
That's I mean, I would expect Valve to step in after this and say, you guys ain't gonna support this game. We ain't gonna sell it. Like,
It looks like the DLC might still be available.
that's dumb.
Yeah,
What are you gonna do with that?
I don't know, but like you can buy the Walking Dead Deluxe Edition upgrade, but
Oh,
you can't buy the base game.
does it give you a good version of the game that they snuck past?
Most of the reviews are talking about how this is all content that should have been in the initial release of the game. So I'm gonna say a hard no on that. It doesn't sound like it's giving you a good game. It sounds like it's giving you a bad game.
Fantastic. Well, I think my hot take on this is Starbreeze. You probably need to work with a better developer. Overkill. You need to not release real shitty games.
Yeah, that's not going to
And
change for them anytime soon.
and 505, you need to figure out what the fuck's going on with your game that you're publishing. Wow, why did you think it was still gonna happen? They probably did right up until fucking Skybound comes in and they're like, no, this is over. We can't deal with this anymore. Robert Kirkman's just fucking weeping in his bed, like, what have they done to my franchise?
That well, it's not like The Walking Dead has had the greatest games, but this was supposed to be the one that broke that tradition. Because
Yes.
I remember seeing ads for some Walking Dead games, other than obviously the Telltale one.
I know there was one that starred Daryl, I'm pretty sure, and his brother,
Okay.
and that was like another first person shooter where you like had a crossbow, and that was not supposed to be good.
Yep. And I think they've had some mobile games.
And I'm sure there's 10 mobile games. Hell, every Telltale game's on mobile still. I don't even
Yeah.
think they've pulled those yet. Yeah, this is a franchise that's gotten it has been quite well farmed out and abused, run through the ringer, largely profited upon. But
I don't know.
guess this was too much for Robert.
And it's also not to parrot that line, but I feel like it's maybe 5 or 6 years too late for this game. Like both for The Walking Dead and for zombie games in general.
Yeah,
Maybe
Yeah,
I'm wrong on that, but I feel like co-op zombie survival is kind of dead. Like look at State of Decay 2.
We'll see.
That kind of came and went.
Yeah, that seemed like a positive flash in the pan for the most part, and then people stopped talking about it after 2 weeks.
I was disappointed. I wanted to like that game. I was excited for it when it came out, and I just kind of forgot that it was out.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of the fun from that game does not come from the zombie, survival aspect, but more for like the town building,
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like that. Did you?
No, I
actually
only
play
played State of
to
Decay
any-
1. I played a lot of State of Decay 1, but I only played
Okay.
that first one.
Yeah, it sounded like the crafting was really interesting, and a lot of the relationships were really cool. But other than that, yeah, like the combat wasn't supposed to be at all fun, which I think would probably directly impede any longevity the game might have.
It's a damn shame.
Yeah, there you have it. There's the nightmare weave of Overkill's Walking Dead publishers and developers and licensors and licensees. That was fun. What other games have you been playing?
I've been playing a lot of Tetris 99, which
Oh,
I think is my favorite game of the year so far.
oh, I don't think I can be any more tantalized by this game, but
It's such a simple execution, and it's done so well. I love Tetris. Tetris 99, general concept is you and 98 other people are all playing a game of Tetris at the same time. I don't even know if your drops are all the same. Like if you're all coming from the same pool of everyone gets a left squiggle and then a line and then a square, like in that order, or if it's just random for everyone. But you're all playing Tetris at the same time. As you clear lines, they get sent to other people, and as other people get clear lines, they get sent to you. I think one of the Tetris games for PlayStation, that's where that idea came from. as far as like a 2-player competitive Tetris, and you keep playing and people keep getting knocked out from just general losing Tetris until someone is the winner of this big Tetris battle royale match.
Mm.
And matches take like 10 minutes max, and they get faster as more and more people get knocked out. And you have this slight control over who you're sending your garbage to. So you can select a specific person, or you can just say like, hey, send it to whoever is sending garbage to me, or send it to whoever is close to being knocked out.
Interesting. So that's the thing I'm most curious about, like how that mechanic sort of integrates with the controls. Because like Tetris, real simple game. You got 2-3 buttons. Everything else is pretty erroneous. What? How does that work while you're playing Tetris?
The left stick can be used to actually select, because all of the other Tetris games are going on to the left and right of your board. And
yes, in what could be argued as the most cluttered UI in the history of games.
Because it's, you're laser focusing in, you get that tunnel vision on the board, you don't really see it. But you can manually use left stick to select which person you want to send to. And there's also a pop-up at the top of the screen where you can just select attackers, KO, random, and then it balances that for you. So you can just say, like, all right, just put it to people who are attacking me and then never think about it again. Yeah, so it works pretty well for that little integration, which I thought was going to be, as I was first playing with this, thinking like, oh crap, do I actually have to, while I'm playing, select who I'm sending this stuff to? And no, you absolutely don't. Thank God.
Okay. I guess I'm a Tetris purist in that I don't want things getting in the way of my Tetris. So that's like my only apprehension with the game. But I mean, everyone seems to be having a lot of fun with it. So I guess I should probably just give it a go.
Do you have, if you've got Switch Online, it's free. If you don't have Switch Online, I don't think it's available to you. And if you have other consoles, I don't think it'll ever be available.
Well, yeah, I think I heard it was an exclusive publishing effort with Nintendo, but I could be wrong there.
So yeah, that I've been playing that, and the other one I've been playing as of actually yesterday is Ape Out, which is the new release from Devolver Digital. I think some of the art design was done by Bennett Foddy, who did that Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy game that came out last year that I don't even really know how to explain. That kind of weird... It was like a weird Zen-ish game where you're a man in a kettle using a shovel or something to move yourself over a mountain.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that now. That didn't... The Birches did a video on that, and I still don't know what the fuck
I never
it is.
played it, so this is the best explanation I can give of Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy. I heard it was very good and that it gave some people had feels related to it, but
I wonder if the subtext is as obvious as it sounds, or if it's just a really strange game.
I feel like it was a really strange game, but I didn't play it, so I can't say 100%. Ape Out, on the other hand, is fantastic. Ape Out is a top-down smash 'em up, I guess. I don't know what the genre specifically would be. You're an ape in some kind of ape testing facility, and you've broken out, and it is up to you to smash literally everyone around you to escape.
It looks so fun. And one of the more interesting things was how the audio sort of integrates with all of the gameplay.
You have this like weird, I'm sure there's an intelligent term for this type of eclectic abstract jazz, but this weird drumming as you're running around with the ape, and musical hits as you're smashing people in half, and bullets are slamming against people that you're holding up as human shields.
Yeah, it's an M-rated game, so don't buy it for your children, but...
Buy it for anyone who likes ripping people in half.
Or crushing them with objects and watching the blood splatter on the floor. And
there's so much blood, and it is very satisfying.
Well, people are going to think we're sociopaths after this episode.
It's sociopath, but of people who are torturing apes. So, it's a trade-off.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious what PETA's hot take on this whole thing is.
I have not actually seen if they've made any comments on it. What about you? What have you been playing this week?
Literally just Anthem, and since you probably ascertained from the title of the episode, but today's matchup is going to be Anthem versus Apex Legends. So I'm not going to talk about it too
Okay.
much right now, but I've spent a fuck ton of time with Anthem this weekend. I played for 14 straight hours yesterday, being Saturday, March 2nd, 2019, for reference. Well, I shouldn't say fuck ton, because there's people that are so much further than me. For someone who works full time and also tries to jam in games, I feel like I played a good amount. So we're gonna start our competition. So I guess we have to introduce it since it's the first episode, and you guys probably at this point are like, "What is this whole thing about? What are they getting at?"
That's a good impression of them. It's exactly what they sound like.
Me and Andy one day were sitting around saying, like, why aren't there more venues for actually, like, what was the
We were
initial
talking
idea?
about brackets and how much fun brackets can be.
Essentially.
And they make
Just
they make for
generally.
good discussion, and it seemed like for the most part it was just sports that got to play with brackets. And there's good reasons for that, because
Yeah.
they have a lot of like food competitions or book but why not though? And so
Why
then
not?
we said, well, how come why not? And we're doing this. You might say, like, there's too many games to make just a whole bracket across the whole year, and you're right, we looked into it. It was too many games, and
Way
you have
too
no
many.
real idea at the beginning of the year what games are going to be worth discussing by the end of it.
Yes. So I think we decided that we're going to do this a little bit a la carte. We're going to find games that are both relevant and sort of not captivating, but sort of in the public eye, and we're going to face them off.
And then at the end of the year, we'll take all the winners of these face-offs that we've done throughout the year and then put those in an actual bracket that you can see and print out and have, betting with your office mates on, and discuss those in a kind of end of the year March Madness, but not in March, so a different name.
Yeah, that pretty much covers the general idea. Now, the more nitty gritty stuff is so we have a sort of a scoring system that sort of helps us determine who a winner is, instead of just us anecdotally saying, my game is better, I think it should win. Now, again, we're not advocating for the games we play. We are just the vessels for information to decide with the criteria that we've set up who the winner is. And that criteria is gameplay, art and sound design. Another category we've sort of colloquially called world building, immersion, storytelling. It sort of wraps all those ideas up. Basically what makes you, like, what brings that sort of intangible level to the game, that's not just, I'm pulling the trigger on this gun, this is real fun,
That
I
sounds
like
like a
this
good game.
So what else? Yeah, could be. Sort of what else makes this game great? And the last category for 4 is the overall experience, where we talk about, what our personal interactions with the game were like, if we had any issues with the game, how much fun it was. And that will be worth twice as much as the other categories. So consider the first 3 1-point categories, and then the last category a 2-point category. So a game could win after the first 3 categories, but it'd have to be a landslide. And at that point, there's a good chance that it's already going to win. But we still want to cover all the details of these games so you guys get a real good idea of these games, and maybe you go out and buy it, or maybe you shun it publicly. We just want you to have all the information to do what you do best.
Hopefully this will give you a good idea of what these games are and aren't, and allow you to make an informed decision on which ones you should buy.
With this first week, we have Anthem versus Apex Legends, 2 games that are absolutely dominating the headlines in the gaming industry. Something to note, too, is that we both purchased these games. They were not granted to us.
Apex Legends is a free game.
Well...
So it was...
Well...
But there was there's no promotional consideration being made here.
Give us an introduction, Andrew, to Apex Legends.
Apex Legends is the latest big battle royale game on the market, unless something's come out in the last week and I missed it. It's by the people who made Titanfall, which was a game where you fought inside of big robots and also with guns outside of big robots.
Mm-hmm.
And they made the brave step of not including big robots in their most recent game, being Apex Legends, which has worked out well for them. The general conceit is you are dropping from the sky to fight other people who are dropping from the sky and landing in an island that has a lot of varied biomes for such a small island. You run around and you shoot people, and the last ones alive are the ones who aren't dead and therefore win. That's the general battle royale vibe of it.
For people who don't really know much about the battle royale genre, can you detail it a little bit and sort of what makes Apex Legends unique in that market space?
Battle royale is generally a large number of people dropped into a confined space, a large confined space, like an island or, I guess, a pit, and they're forced to fight each other to the death. And on a timer, I think, and correct me if there are battle royale games that don't have the ring mechanic, but most of the ones that I've ever seen have on a timer this kind of wall surrounding the map shrinks a little bit, forcing everyone into smaller, more confined areas so that people can't just sit in trees hoping someone walks by so they can shoot them. Everyone's constantly moving towards each other until you get these, especially in some of the GIFs people probably have seen of Fortnite gameplay at the end, very confined areas that people are fighting in.
So you could definitely say it's a core mechanic in battle royale games.
So that's, I think, you usually land with nothing. You start with no guns, no weapons of any kind, and you're forced to scavenge the buildings and caves and what else in the area to find whatever equipment you can to survive, and then use that and whatever you can pick up off of other dead bodies.
Right. Yeah, so there's a survival aspect to the whole thing as well.
What I think makes the things that I am aware of that make Apex Legends different, I may be missing something here because, again, I'm not the most familiar with the genre. There are different heroes you can play as that have different sets of abilities, kind of like, the hero shooters of a couple years ago, like Overwatch. You pick whichever one you want to be at the beginning, and that gives you some kind of, one of them's a healer and can heal people. One of them is a guy with a shield, and that's helpful. One of them is a woman who can shoot smoke grenades. I don't know why those are good, but they are. I've not found a use for them yet. There's a robot that can swing from things. A lot of dynamic characters that you can pick to play as, and that kind of informs your gameplay style a little bit. You're also playing in squads. You're always grouped up in groups of 3. And I know that some other battle royale games have team-based gameplay, but this is possibly unique in that it has no solo option. You have to play with 2 other people and have to play in this squad.
Yeah, of the 3 I've played, there's been a solo option, so I think this is unique.
You're automatically paired with people, and a lot of the survival is sharing information, letting your teammates know what's around you. If you see something, if you find items that you don't find useful but others might, like you find a really cool scope, but you're not using a scoped weapon, obviously your teammates might be, and you'd want to let them know. So you can tag them, and that information is available to your teammates. You can also harass your teammates by constantly tagging really crappy weapons and just getting a laugh out of that. And that's something that seems to be very popular in the game these days. Also, I think unique to Apex, or at least, again, that I've heard, you can revive your downed teammates, and if they get knocked down, you can go over and help them back up and give them a little bit of health. And if they die completely, you can take something off their corpse and bring it to a little pod for them to respawn.
Yeah, that part I think is unique. I think there's like pickup mechanics like there is in Gears of War and a couple of the other ones. But again, I'm not well versed in the genre either.
So that's all I think what makes it just obviously, these are the features that you won't find in other battle royale games. From my time playing Fortnite and the one time I played PUBG, the gunplay seems just infinitely tighter. It actually feels good to play rather than good enough to play.
I'm not sure if shots fired at Fortnite or.
I loved the Fortnite PvE, but it was the playing against the computer generated waves of zombies rather than other players. But
to the 8 other people that played the PvE in
yeah,
Fortnite.
where I'm sure I played with all of you at some point, and to the 3 other people that actually paid for microtransactions in that game, like I did.
You're the reason they're making billions off this game, Andy.
Or the reason that the Fortnite players versus enemies made $30. The gunplay in this is a lot better. It felt like a good first-person shooter, and I'm sure a lot of it comes from having made games like Titanfall, where they put that knowledge into making a really tight gunplay experience. The movement is fast. The firefights and encounters are always quick, and you don't feel like you're missing or losing because the game isn't well made. I didn't have any situations where I shot someone and it didn't hit, and I felt like it should have.
Yeah, and this comes from a real storied dev team. Respawn Entertainment was created by one of the original heads of the team that made Call of Duty, and he spun off to make the original Titanfall, and then Titanfall 2, and now this game. So this is like decades of first-person shooter experience culminating into Apex Legends.
And it shows. This is clearly made by people who know how to make a first-person shooter, and it's great. That the gunplay is fantastic. The multiplayer aspects of it, it's really hard because I don't like playing games with people online, so it's very difficult for me to say, like, compare this to other games, because I didn't like playing Overwatch online. I liked playing that with bots. I'd pay $30 to $60 for Apex Legends with bots, where I and maybe people I invite to a private server could play and mostly just be playing against bots. I'd pay ready money for that. You're not going to unlock new things that make you better at the game. You just need to get better at the game or be pushed out of the game.
Right. Which is its own reward.
Sure. That is a style of gameplay, that is a style of game. It's just not one that I really have shot for in the past.
Yeah, understandable. Yeah, I guess
I think that kind of covers the gameplay of Apex.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'll introduce Anthem now. Oh, wait, and you did the gameplay too. I'll introduce Anthem, and then I'll talk about the gameplay. Anthem is a third-person shooter made by BioWare, who's made games previously like Mass Effect and Dragon Age, both very storied franchises in the RPG space, although Mass Effect is also another third-person shooter, and you can certainly see where their experience making Mass Effect went into influencing Anthem's end product. It's very much a detour from their usual path. Anthem is exclusively a third-person shooter with no RPG mechanics, really.
No RPG mechanics at all?
You're right. That's not fair, because it's essentially like an MMO in the vein of Destiny, where they expose all the numbers to you instead of hiding them. Other than that, really, it's just a really tight third-person shooter. Yeah, I mean, like a lot of MMOs, you get your loot. You get big open worlds that you get to fly through. You're not necessarily stuck on this one linear path when you're going from here to there, and et cetera, et cetera. As far as an introduction goes, that's probably all I can say. I guess I'll talk about the gameplay now. Yeah, so one of the best things about Anthem is definitely the gameplay. Since the whole thing's in third person, and since you're fighting in giant mechs, like, you always feel the whole thing feels really tight. You feel really cool while you're in combat with all these different monsters. The shooting feels good. The enemies, for the most part, are fairly smart. Obviously, there's a lot of technical issues with the game, but for the most part, you're zip-zapping around, flying from here to there, and killing a bunch of bad guys. So one of the interesting things about the game is that there's 4 classes, and each of them plays very differently. I've been playing as a Colossus. This is the tanky class in the game. There's also Interceptor, Storm, and Ranger. Ranger's the sort of the default class, so that has like a general set of abilities. If you played Mass Effect, I would compare it to the Soldier. They're pretty similar, other than the jetpacks.
I was going to say, it'd been a while and you hadn't mentioned jetpacks yet, and from the marketing material, it seemed like jetpacks were a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge part of the game. It's also like a bit of a double-edged sword because the flying feels really good, but for whatever reason, they don't seem to want you to fly all that much. The jetpacks can overheat, and they overheat really quickly. I don't know the exact time, but if I had to guess, you can only stay in the air for 10 seconds unless otherwise influenced by outside forces.
10 seconds? That's all they give you?
It's between like 10 and 15 seconds. It's not real long. You can do some things to elongate that amount of time, such as flying through waterfalls and like hovering just above the water so that your jets get cooled. It is a really cool mechanic, but ultimately, when you're flying around in these super high tech mechs, you're thinking like, why the fuck can I only fly for 15 goddamn seconds?
Everything I saw about that game made me think that this was a game that I was going to be spending most of my time jetpacking around. That this was a jetpack-based game.
Oh, you are. You are. The thing that they don't tell you is that you're also going to have to land for 5 seconds, or for about 3 seconds every 15 seconds to let your jets cool down, and then you're going to jump back in the air and then continue flying. So
Oh,
I don't know. So they may have got you on that one, Andy.
yeah, clearly. They showed me.
Yeah. Yeah, when you get really I'm gonna say when you get lucky, when you get missions that are sort of contrived to like follow like river paths and stuff, you can pretty much fly indefinitely. But for the most part, every time you have to fly, I would say 75% of the times you have to fly somewhere, you have to stop along the way to cool your jets. So as far as mobility goes, it feels really good, but for some fucking reason, they don't want you to do it for very long.
That's a very prudish attitude to take to jetpacks. Jetpacks that they invented, mind you.
I know. I mean, the thing about it is, like, it adds an interesting mechanic to the flying. It's not just get up in air, go direction. Like, it adds, like, there's design there. Like, they thought about this and they were like, we need these players to do something else while they're flying around. And unfortunately, the answer to that was, let's not let them do that thing for very long. I like when there's water around and then I can like fly really close to the earth and cool and just keep going. But I think at this point I only like it because I'm like shell shocked from having to fucking land every 10 seconds, and I'm like, oh, there's no water. What do I do?
I'm just shocked because everything I saw about this game was jetpacks.
Yeah. I even picked the class that had the cool thrusters on the back because I was like, yay, jetpacks! I want to see them. This is a jetpack game. I'm Iron Man now.
This is a game where you fly. You're the Rocketeer. No. You're gonna fly around with your jetpacks, and you're gonna do jetpack stuff.
Yeah. No, it's more like that jetpack in GTA 3, where you can go up for a little bit and it's.
Oh no, that's not a great comparison at all.
No, that's not fair. The mobility feels really good. Like when you're flying around, and if you ignore your overheat bar, and you're just like, I'm the king of the world. But if you ignore your overheat bar, then you're going to plummet to the earth and crash and be overheated and not be able to do anything for like 10 more seconds. So if you overheat, there is a severe punishment for it.
Man, I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed because I was looking forward to a jetpack game.
Yeah, sorry, Andy. This isn't the one.
No, clearly not.
I mean, there's enough backlash where I think they're gonna extend that a bit, and I think they need to, honestly. Like, even as someone who gets why they put it in the game and would appreciate it if it was a longer period, they really need to tune this. So that's the jetpack portion of the game. The classes, like I said, they all have their own abilities. I've only been playing Colossus. I played Ranger for like the tutorial, and I tested it out a little bit later. So I'm gonna have to trust some of the information I get from other people. One of the things to note too is that I've been playing this predominantly with 2 other friends, sometimes a full squad of 4. And so, like, my experience may be slightly different from what other people have experienced because I'm playing it socially, as I think the game is intended. So what I can definitely say is there are plenty of useless abilities in the game that are completely undertuned, or just don't feel good at all, or just like I literally can't think of a use for them. With the Colossus specifically, there's like 2 different mortar abilities, and I was just and like the flak cannon. So if you've played Mass Effect, a lot of the game is based around like setting up like detonation combos where you literally prime a target by like in mass I'll use the venom spitter in Anthem as an example. You'll shoot acid on these dudes and then you'll electrocute them with another ability, and then they'll explode and do extra damage to that target and everything around it. So a good way of clearing waves is setting up these detonations. There's like the Colossus has several abilities that don't seem to detonate and also don't seem to do a tremendous amount of damage to compensate for that fact. So I just haven't found a use for them. Like they do a lot of damage, but like when comparing them to like the very simple detonations that you can set up with half of the other kit, it's like fucking common sense. Like why would I ever use a burst mortar to deal 3 damage to a stationary location when I can spit acid on a moving target and then detonate them while still firing my gun at them? Like it's I don't know, but neither here nor
Yeah.
there. From what I've read, the Ranger class is entirely irrelevant in the game. People are advised not to play them on Grandmaster 2 and 3 just because they're frail and their abilities aren't
Is
any
Grandmaster
good.
like higher difficulty levels?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so the game has 6 different difficulties. 3 are end game, Grandmaster being those. Grandmaster 1, 2, and 3 are the sort of the end game content. Don't really know what to compare that to for Destiny players. They definitely have like hard modes that just get harder and literally just makes enemies stronger. Doesn't really add many mechanics to the game. Ooh, I got a beef. Just did one of the I'll call them dungeons. They call them
Mm-hmm.
strongholds in the game. Basically, you do dungeons. Dungeons have bosses. Those bosses drop loot. One of the dungeons is just the last mission, and you go through it, and you get to the last boss, and without revealing anything, that boss fight ends when the boss is at about 25%. So me assuming that when they convert this to a dungeon, they're just gonna, especially on the harder difficulties, they're just gonna make the full health bar like what that
Mm-hmm.
boss is, because obviously the boss just disappears at 25% health, and the loot appears in the most unsatisfying
That
events
sounds
I've ever
so
experienced.
lazy.
It's maybe the laziest goddamn thing ever. And also, 2 of the dungeons are infinitely harder than the first dungeon. It's absolutely not worth playing 2 of the dungeons right now if you're trying to gear up, because like they are astronomically more difficult than Tyrant Mine.
Okay.
So if you're trying to gear up or you just want to complete a dungeon, you're just running the same dungeon over and over again. This is also the only dungeon that is available to you until you beat the game. When you beat the game, you get 2 more dungeons. So if you decide to do the dungeons while you're leveling up, you're going to also be doing that one same dungeon to gear up in the end game, and that is what you will be doing. That may be more relevant for the later rounds, but as far as the gameplay goes, I'll summarize it by saying the gunplay is tight. A lot of abilities are absolutely useless, though. Not all classes are created equal. Flying really needs to be tuned, but it's almost there. It's a game that the gameplay is so close that I just want to shake it into having some common sense.
Well, that's
Yeah.
fair.
So Apex
Mm-hmm.
Legends. Can you think of anything bad to say about the gameplay? Because that just seemed like you had nothing but glowing things to
Oh
say
man,
about it.
if you had asked me last week, if we had recorded this last week, I would have told you that Apex Legends was some of the most fun I've had in FPS in a year. Talking to you this
Mm-hmm.
week, game's fucking trash.
Oh,
Let me tell you. Let me tell
What
you why
happened?
it's for. I'm not great at games. I'm okay. I hold my own. I do okay. I played a lot of FPSs in my day. Played some online. Played a good amount of Rainbow Six Siege. As far for recent online stuff, played a good amount of Overwatch. I think I held my own pretty well in Overwatch. I'm not terrible, is what I'm saying. But the fact that these matches aren't balanced in any way, they're not skill balanced in any way. I go in there and I'm being paired up with and against people that have clearly not stopped playing this game since it was released
Mm.
and have learned every single secret spot to stand where you can see through this little crack that you wouldn't know you could see through unless you had been playing it since you were born. It's not fun because
So you're just not having fun anymore, huh?
the problem seems to be that in that first week when everyone was garbage and I was garbage as well, there was a lot of fun to be had. People that I was paired up with
Mm.
were just there to have a good time and would laugh off when we got ambushed or something stupid happened. That like, yeah, we probably could have handled that better, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Back to the lobby to try again. And now, man, people are just so angry and they're taking it so seriously. It's like everyone now is trying, everyone realized that this is going to be the next big game on Twitch and everything. So they're all trying to look good and play the best they possibly can. And I'm just kind of enjoying this game. Like, oh, I'm going to find some cool loot and I'm going to go shoot some people and maybe I'll get a kill. Maybe I won't, whatever. No, not good enough. People yelling at me, people screaming, people getting angry when you die. Like, there was a meme going around a while where someone was showing that they had some job posting where they were requiring like 8 years of experience with some programming language that only had existed for 3. That's what I feel like playing Apex. Like, I got to go in there every round I get matched up with people and apologize because I'm not 200 IQ at this game. So it's just sucked all of the fun and enjoyment out of it, where I get in there and people are just angry all the time. No one's having fun anymore.
Huh. That's a shame. So it's not a casual game anymore.
Yeah. And I would love it if there was a casual server, like a way I could just say, I don't have a Twitch career that I'm trying to prop up with footage of this game. I apologize in advance if your Twitch footage doesn't look good because of my garbage play.
Yeah.
But
I would love to see a game actually pull that off, because that's been a problem in gaming for a long time. Even like I listened to an interview with like the head of the Halo studio who was like, "Yeah, I love playing Halo multiplayer for the first week, and then after that I just have to switch to Firefight because I get dumpstered." It's like, well, that happens to a lot of people, like casuals, heads of the studio that makes that game. Like, that's a fucking problem.
Yeah, I just want to play a couple of games with some casual dudes who also want to play a couple of games. And there was a good 2 weeks where I was playing Apex Legends every night, and then I had one day where not even by my like trying to be humorously shitty at the game, had like 4 or 5 rounds in a row that lasted less than 2 minutes. I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with this. Really well made game though. Really fun. Really good, but trash.
Well, there's a good everyman pitch for our listeners. I mean, I'm definitely not advocating to make games easier for us. I think there's still a lot of growth for accessibility in the industry, and that Apex Legends is a good example.
I'd pay $20 to just play this game with bots against, with a couple of friends.
Overwatch added it eventually.
You know what I liked about it is at no point did someone accuse me of eating diapers. It just happened to me in Rocket League. I had some guy screaming at me and saying that I ate diapers. I don't know what you're talking about. He wasn't even specifying dirty diapers. It was just that I ate diapers.
That's an okay burn. It's not a common one.
No, it wasn't racist or homophobic or anything. It was just weird.
So that leaves us in an interesting position for the gameplay portion. So you're just not having fun.
Yeah.
That's a pretty strong argument against it winning a round about having fun in a game.
I was having fun until other people started having fun, and now I can't have fun anymore. It sounds like your game's more fun.
Yeah, Anthem is fun. I have problems with it, but it is definitely fun. Like I said, I played it for 14 hours straight yesterday, and that wasn't because, you know, me chatting up people in town was so fucking riveting, but it was because the gameplay loop was genuinely fun. So I guess we can safely move on to round two and declare round one to
I think
Anthem.
you're right.
Art and sound in Anthem is really breathtaking. Honestly, it's this massive world that you're flying around. The waterfalls look beautiful. The greenery is lush. It looks a little bit gray in the HDR. Now, to note, I'm playing this on the Xbox One X, so it's going to be upscaled a little bit. I think it's just HDR. It may also be 4K. Should know this, but regardless, game looks beautiful. The sounds of like the thrusters are just it's so good. It's so good that I had to like turn it down a bit because it sounded so authentic that it was just like rumbling my entire apartment, and I was like, "Oh, listen to that! My downstairs neighbor is going to come up here and stab me in the fucking heart." Um, for whatever reason, the game looks like a little bit gray to me. I don't know what it is, but like I feel like it could be a little bit more like verdant. A lot of times, like they may have just toned it down because the world is so damn lush, and it's very much sort of overrun civilization seems to be like the theme, where you kind of go out and you sort of find these like moss covered towers and stuff like
Okay.
that. And I guess the whole premise of the game is there's sort of like a world that's not wasn't completed by the gods, so that opens up a lot of like opportunities for art, because you can literally, the sky's the limit. Like what the hell could possibly happen on a planet that was like half designed? They do a pretty good job of it. There's a little bit of like sort of sameness. Like I could almost point out some aspects or maybe even assets of the game that may have just come straight from Dragon Age
Oh
Inquisition.
wow.
Not throwing any fingers, but a couple of the biomes in the world map reminded me a lot of things that I saw in Inquisition, and maybe it's just because it's just straight out of the fantasy rule book or not, but you know, I'm definitely not calling them lazy. Game still looks great. One of the interesting things about it, though, is that it meshes like sci-fi and fantasy. The map's very much a fantasy map, but then you're dealing with like really high-tech mechs, even though you're in like what sort of looks like Istanbul, and like Bazaar in Istanbul when you're in the hometown area, where it's like nothing's really like fancy or high tech in the city, but then you go to the forge and you're dealing with like the most sophisticated equipment that like fucking earthlings couldn't even fathom. So it really does a good job of like building the art around like those two sort of conflicting ideas. I truly think it's a beautiful game, and the audio always impresses. I haven't really found, well, I shouldn't say always. There's a bug, and this isn't really related to the design of the audio, but I'm gonna just note it now while I'm talking about it. There's a very common bug where the audio will cut out and will just never come back, so you have to reboot the game. Me and all of my friends have experienced it. It's been irritating because it's really jarring to play a game with no audio, especially a game where you're in like an open world and you sort of need all of your senses to know what's going on all the time. So, BioWare, please fix that. I know you have so many things on your list of bugs. This is a buggy goddamn game, but like that's a real bad one. And having to reboot an entire game when you're in a party with people is like kind of a logistical nightmare. Like you have to like reassign squad leader and all this stupid stuff. So just please. But overall, sound art and audio, very pleased with the game. How about Apex Legends?
Apex Legends looks good, in the same way that like Titanfall 2 looked good. It's just
Hmm.
kind of worn down, futuristic buildings and flora and fauna. Um, the areas are, I can't say they're all, very inspired or well or anything I haven't seen before. I'm guessing a lot of the stuff was either explicitly or partially reused from Titanfall 2. Just the way that a lot of the, I think it's supposed to technically be in the same universe.
Yeah, from what I've heard, is there much mention of that in the
Not
game?
that I've noticed.
Hmm.
There's a lot of it's a good looking game, but it's nothing that I'm gonna it's nothing that I would say, oh my god, this is breathtaking, you gotta check it out. I have nothing like the glowing words that you're saying about this game, at least as far as that stuff goes. It looks better than PUBG and Fortnite.
Yeah. So Fortnite very stylized. PUBG just looks
Yep.
bad generally. So not really a glowing
No,
recommendation,
but
but that's
yeah,
something.
it's something. It looks better than PUBG and Fortnite, and
Hmm.
it looks as good as a lot of FPSs I've played recently. It's a very pretty game,
Hmm.
but it's not. There's nothing about it that I would say looks incredible,
Hmm.
and there's no part of it that I would say is like, oh god, yeah, you can tell looking at that screenshot that's from Apex Legends versus
Oh, okay.
just from a good FPS of the modern era.
Yeah. And that's a really good point to Anthem is that if you saw a picture of Anthem, like you could probably pick it out pretty quickly because it looks so otherworldly. Like I can just imagine a screenshot of one of these like outrageous cliffs that's like overhanging this like whole valley, like something you would never see in like a natural
Mm.
environment.
There's not any of that. I mean, there's notable locations, but they're only notable because I've played in them. They're
Hmm.
not super memorable. They're not things that 10 years from now I'm gonna see. I'm gonna think about those places that I used to play in Apex Legends.
Yeah.
It's just
All
fine.
right. Well,
Very very workable,
all right.
very playable, very utilitarian, but nothing that I would send screenshots to anyone of.
Fair point. Fair point. All right. So it sounds like it's safe to say that Anthem wins
Yeah,
round
I would
two.
say so.
This is
Not
interesting.
the way you thought this was gonna
So
go.
well, not the way the internet would have thought it was going to go. So we have Anthem up 2-0 right now, and there's still 3 points to dole out. So our third and final 1 point category is I'm just going to go with world building for now. We don't have a firm name on this category yet, but sort of what makes this game sort of special and immersive, like the story and other intangibles that are hard to detail regularly. And I'll let you start this one off.
Man, I'm sure there are some. It's the world is inconsequential. It's in the future. The play wherever it is you are has gone to shit because the
Hmm.
buildings are run down. But there's no obvious evidence of like it's gone to shit because the Triffids showed up and destroyed it. Like there's no obvious indication of what happened. I'm sure there's some event that happened that caused the world to be like this, but none of that is telegraphed or displayed in the gameplay.
Really?
It's just a world that you're fighting in.
And this is on an island,
Yeah,
correct?
there's an island.
And the
There are
island
these,
has no rhyme or reason for being.
not that I've seen. There are these creatures that are off in the distance that look like kind of if AT-ATs were actually living creatures. I don't know what the fuck they are. I don't know why they're there. They're there in the distance. You can't do anything with them. You can't see them. I've seen people on the Apex Legends subreddit reference them by name. I don't know where they got that name. I don't know who's saying that name.
Do they matter?
No, they're just there.
Other than they're
But
just
at least
there.
there's
That's
something
exciting.
that's I keep every time I'm dropping, I see this distance. I wonder what those are. None of my business. I, maybe there's an
Jesus.
archive hidden in the mountains in the game that you're supposed to access and read like it's Mass Effect and you're supposed to read 30 hours of documentation that they wrote for it. But it's a big future world. If you told me that they stole a map from Borderlands, yep, sure did. I completely believe that.
It's just a cell shaded biome on the map. That'd be
Yeah,
fucking
if
hilarious.
you took Borderlands and got rid of the cell shading, it would look and made the graphics good. It would look a lot like Apex
So
Legends.
nothing about the game really makes it stand out other than like the gameplay aspects. Is
Yeah,
what
the
you're saying?
gameplay great. I mean, the heroes are just there's nothing special about the heroes that distinguishes them from any other class-based game. Like they're not. There's a robot, but a lot of futuristic games have a robot class, and the
Hmm.
robot says things that I would imagine some of the HK droids from Knights of the Old Republic would have said. Like, don't forget,
sassy bots.
don't forget to breathe if you're a being that requires oxygen or something like that.
Yes, very novel.
Yeah, sassy bots is a good word for it. They've got sassy robots, and they say the sassy things robots say. They're not even like overly vulgar and insane like Claptrap. They're just slightly sassy. It's all fine. It all works to push the game into as it facilitates the game. But none of if you're not completely enamored with the game, none of this helps.
Oh boy,
I want to say nicer things about it because I did have fun with it for a couple of weeks, but I can't anymore.
This is this is going to be an interesting take on this game. I'm curious about how our listeners feel about all of it.
Yeah, I want it to be better. I want to tell you there's something there that's, but when you see this, when you get to this location, when you hear this character's audio, but it's just I couldn't tell you. I know the names of the characters because I saw them on screens, not because they're names I need to know.
Well, so this is really interesting. So Anthem. Well, so one of the interesting things about this too is that I'm actively playing. Have you ceased playing Apex Legends?
I stopped playing Apex Legends mid to early last week, and I was playing it every night for 3 hours leading up to that. So I was avidly playing it until the community or the people I was playing with just got angry and mean, and it stopped being fun.
Yeah, so I'm wondering where I'm going to land with Anthem in like a couple weeks, because it has a lot of the same problems that Destiny 2 had, and Destiny 2 I fell off on pretty quick and pretty hard. I think I got a solid month out of it, and I never even went back for the X-Pack, which is supposed to be phenomenal. Whereas I played the original Destiny for a couple months, and then I went back for both the X-Packs and really enjoyed them. Yeah, I mean, I don't have super glowing things to say about Anthem in this category. Really, the narrative is quite paltry, especially from like a story developer, a single player developer like BioWare. The quote I said to a friend last night was, "The story is like a sub-story on any planet in the Mass Effect universe." So, like, the story could have easily been told in 2 to 3 hours as like a non-consequential story that resulted in you getting an ally or something like that in the Mass Effect universe. But in Anthem, they told a pretty generic story. BioWare also chose to have a bunch of NPCs that you could talk to in sort of like the dialogue tree sense, but instead of it being like fully branching trees with like Paragon and not, it's just 1 to 2 options that affects only the immediate dialogue right after that choice, and then it just spins back up, and it always ends up being the same discussion you have with these people. Because now this is one of the interesting things. The game actually crashed on me a couple times during dialogues, so I got the opportunity to retry a couple dialogues, and there was no difference other than like they would be slightly annoyed for the sentence after a response that may have been a bit more sassy. And then they would end up saying the same thing anyway. So like obviously this isn't a big single player, fuck fest like Mass Effect was, because you can't have relationships in it, which I didn't really care too much about. I was more upset with the lack of gravity in all of the discussions with the NPCs. How like, and again, this isn't what they were going for at all, but they sort of like tickle you with it a little bit, just enough to make it like, oh man, I wish this was just a Mass Effect 4. Like, why are you doing this to me? So like I would almost they rather just left it all out, because like the NPCs don't give you quests, they don't give you rewards for talking to a bunch. It is literally just to build the world, and that's sort of like what this category is for, but I just don't think they do a good job of it.
It sounds like they at least made an effort.
Yes, more than Apex Legends. So I won't harp on it too much, because it sounds like you're not going to advocate for
I
that.
am not going to say that Apex Legends is a winner in this category.
One thing I did want to note, because this is sort of a category that keeps in mind like the immersive qualities of a game. One of the things that really annoyed me about the early game is that you have no reason to be in the open world for any reason other than one single quest where you have to go pick up a few embers. Embers being a crafting material. You literally there's no point in doing free play until after you beat the campaign, and then you can do it to grind for gear, which is not a good way to grind for gear, or you can do it to complete a quest that has fairly arbitrary rewards by doing absurd goals like 100 world events. World events are pretty common for just for reference, so you can probably find one every like 5 minutes, but like 5 times 100, that's 500 minutes, and that's if you're lucky. Like I fly around sometimes for like 15 minutes and not find anything. So I gotta say, I'm not really super impressed with what they did with the game in like these aspects, but like overall, like I'm still enjoying the world that it takes place in. Whereas doesn't sound like you are at all.
I don't feel like there's all that much world to enjoy.
And that's
If you if you said like, what do you think of the world building and lore around Unreal Tournament? Like I don't know.
Yeah,
Some of the levels look pretty cool.
All right, so it's pretty safe to say I think that Anthem also takes that round, which is crazy because that means it's de facto winner. We're still going to talk about our overall experiences just to give you guys a more full understanding of our experience with the game, obviously, our overall experience. But it sounds like the official winner for episode 1, and we'll be moving on to the winner's bracket, is Anthem.
Yeah. Woo.
Nice job, Anthem.
Yay, go Anthem.
Yeah, let's please don't crucify us, internet. Again, we were not paid by anyone to back Anthem. We know it's going through some shit right now on the internet, and rightly so. It is a very buggy game that probably needed 6 more months. I will segue this into the overall experience seamlessly. Also worth noting, something that we didn't make mention of is both these games are published by EA, so no one would have bought us off anyway. But regardless, yeah, so my overall experience with Anthem has been positive ? I say that because as recently as yesterday morning, I almost got on with Xbox customer service and demanded a refund. Because
Good game.
So like this might have been where it got interesting if Anthem didn't already sweep the board here, but I couldn't launch the game for like 45 minutes, and I'm not talking log into the servers, which is a whole other fucking disaster. I couldn't launch the game for 45 minutes yesterday. This is after a week of me logging in, the servers not connecting me or disconnecting me immediately, or other bugs, like if you don't close the game all the way and try and reconnect, you're never gonna be able to. This is all my experience on the 1X, and this is, again, our experience, very subjective category. I just so many bugs. The audio bug that I had mentioned before culminated in literally I had gotten to the point where if this game doesn't fucking load this try, I'm gonna fucking shout at some poor customer service person. I know it's not their fault. I'm just a maniac, and demand my money back. Because I'd also bought the deluxe version because I'm stupid. Don't ever buy deluxe versions, people, please. So I stood to recoup $80, and I still don't know if the game was worth that much. I definitely am enjoying the game. Obviously, I'm playing it a lot. I'm a bit of a loot horror type person, so I really like the shoot and loot style games. But the game's got so far to go. Like it needed to be released next fall, really. Like it needs more content. The end game seems to just be the one dungeon that I had mentioned before, because it's the only way to get a guaranteed masterwork, which is the highest tier of loot. You get one guaranteed masterwork at the end of that, and that is the only way to do that. And upping the difficulty only increases the random drops of the masterworks and also the legendaries, which are a rank above masterworks and the highest rank in the game currently. So those are the most sought after items. So literally, it's a lot like Destiny. It's a lot like a lot of MMOs. It's like get more gear to get more gear, and it's not to do more content. It's just to get more gear. So yeah, just to sum up, like I'm having a lot of fun with it, but it's a game I would have waited for to see that perfect iteration. I don't know who our audience might be, but like always advocate for developers taking their time. Like I don't let publishers like EA like force out a game, or don't stand for it. I shouldn't say. I don't know what the hell you're gonna do. Don't try and call up your buddy, the president of EA, and be like, hey, listen.
If EA calls and says, you know what, Anthem's not quite ready yet, but we'll put it out early if you tell us to, say no.
Just say no.
For all of us.
Yeah. So what was your? I think you've summed it up pretty well. But your overall experience of Apex Legends was.
You know, the problem is it's a good game. It's very well made. It's a very tight game, but it's a game that I can't play because I'm not 12, because I don't have I don't get home from
Are you
school.
saying only 12-year-olds can be good at games?
No, I'm just saying that I don't have the time to put in, because it's entirely a skill game. There's no unlock that's going to make me better. There is no new character that's going to. It's entirely a skill-based game, and so if you're not only just really good at FPSs, but also willing to put in the time to learn the real intricacies of this game, you're not going to perform at a level that allows you to have fun, because you die in 30 seconds. And that's an exaggeration. Sometimes you last a long time, but with a lot of these run-throughs I have, it's 10 minutes of swapping out my loot for slightly better loot as we raid areas that have already been shot, and then getting shot in the face.
Yeah.
And as much as I enjoy personally going through and finding good loot for someone to pick off my dead body, and there is a sense of satisfaction in having the best possible loot for someone to steal and pry from my cold dead hands, it just feels very hollow at the end. What moments am I going to remember from this playthrough? And it's none. Well, good job, Anthem.
Yeah, good job,
Congratulations.
Anthem. We won't even dole out the last category, but Anthem, yay.
Good for you guys.
Good for you, EA. I hope you earn all the money that you deserve. Question mark. We're making them more money. What are we doing, Andy? No. Yeah. And anything else for as we wrap up?
No. Please, anyone who wants to crucify me on this, please keep in mind that I am saying it's a good game. I am just saying that I did not have the fun with it that I should have, and therefore I can't rank it highly.
Yeah. When you rattle off your Twitter handle and YouTube, they may understand the type of games that you like.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess that leads us to wrapping up here.
Segue.
So, yeah, you're doing a good job there. I want to thank everyone for listening to us here. If you want to hear more about what I do and the kind of horrible opinions you've already assumed that I have, come see all of my hot takes on solitaire games and puzzle RPGs at Solitalker, solitaire but with talking. That's on Twitter and on YouTube.
Hot tanks. That makes me want to play that tank dating game.
Oh man, I never played that. Panzer Maidens?
Panzer Maidens, that's it. I tried to explain that to a non-gamer friend not long ago, and they just were like, "I'm never gonna play video games. It's ruined. It's over. You guys."
Video games were a mistake. Clearly.
Yes. Just yeah, and yeah. Thanks also for watching and listening. There's no video component. I'm Brent Langevin. You can find me on Twitter and some other platforms with the handle Arcadia. It's a Key in the end. I guess you pronounce